We're under the dome at BC Place tonight for the second of 4 meetings this season between these two Western rivals. There's Ken Miller, whose Riders won their second straight road game last week, ended a 2-game losing streak and grabbed a share of first place in the CFL West, while Wally Bono's Lions trying to avoid their first 3-game home losing streak in 8 years. And some on the West Coast billing this as a must-win game for the struggling Lions.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, in that I believe must-win games are the ones that if you don't win, you go home. It's pretty early in the season for that, but clearly there is a sense of urgency for the BC Lions who have to snap these losing ways.
There's Ryan Grace Mullen along with Martel Mallett. They've dropped deep to accept the opening kickoff. They met in week 1. It was a wild 15-turnover game. 28-24 the final there. The Roughriders won that one. And away we go with the rematch. And up across the 40, that ball looked like it popped loose at the end. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders say they're on the football. Let's see as they unpile. And they are saying it is BC Lion football. Murray Clark in charge. And let's have another look.
See when this return.
And clearly down as the ball popped loose at the end of the play. So Buck Pierce at the controls. Lions start at their own 42-yard line. And a completion to Paris Jackson, close to a first down for Jackson, brought down by Lance Frazier.
Well, Buck Pierce will have Martel Mallett in the backfield for him. Nice 6-yard average rushing, 56 carries coming in for Mallett, but Mallett as the only setback in the receiving corps. G. Roy Simon, just 18 catches after 5 weeks. They want to try and get him the football early and often, and an offensive line that has had some issues on the left side with Dean Valley and Darren Heersping.
Somebody moved early, so the play is stopped. Starting lineups are brought to you by Nissan, fan and proud sponsor of the CFL.
Lots of questions.
Procedure. PC number 54. 5-yard penalty. It remains first down.
It's left guard Dean Valley who flinched early.
Lots of questions, Chris, as to whether or not Wally Buono should go ahead and continue to start Buck Pierce, or should he go to Jarius Jackson. He believes that Buck Pierce has not lost that starting job. Not yet.
So first and 15. Flag down. Buck Pierce guns a completion. Emmanuel Arsenault with the catch at the Saskatchewan Roughrider 49-yard line. So a pickup of close to 14 for Arsenault, but a penalty marker on the play.
12 catches for Emmanuel Arsenault coming in.
Offside. Saskatchewan number 90. That penalty is declined. Second down.
So Stevie Baggs moved early, but the completion to Arsenault will stand. 21 years of age, and a guy that the Lions have big hopes for. So second and a yard to a yard and a half. Lyle Green in motion. Martel Mallett straight ahead. Keith Shulligan, whose responsibilities are increased with the retirement of Scott Schultz, the tackle, but it's the Lions' first down.
Yeah, and that's where we start with the defensive lineup. Scott Schultz announced his retirement during the week. So Keith Shulligan will go in there. And a linebacking core led by Ray Williams, 30 tackles for him, a couple of sacks, and 3 forced fumbles on the season. And the veteran Eddie Davis leads the secondary in tackles with 19.
Lion first down, play action fake. And here's Arsenault stepping out at the 41-yard line. And he has 6.
On this first series for the BC Lions, you're feeling that sense of urgency. Buck Pierce looks sharp. He's making his decisions quickly and getting the football out there. Quick passing game, a couple passes to Paris Jackson and then a couple to Emmanuel Arsenault. And they are getting good production on first down.
They mark him at the 40, so it's a 7-yard pickup, 2nd and 3. And a 5-receiver set with Green in motion again. Straight ahead, Martell Mallet, first down at the 31-yard line. Eddie Davis makes the tackle. But Martell Mallet, one of the bright spots for the Lions in their opening 5 weeks.
Yeah, I asked Wally Buono if he could name 5 things that he's liked about his football team, even though they're 1-4. And one of the first ones he mentioned was Martell Mallet and his 6-yard average, 339 yards rushing coming into this game, and a good gain and a good first down there for Mallet.
Lions ranked 6th rushing. Saskatchewan defense 7th ranked against the run. First down, Pierce to the air. Pierce looking deep, looking for G. Roy Simon, who got hooked up in the end zone with Eddie Davis, and a penalty marker flies. And I think G. Roy helped sell it.
Well, you know what he did is he cut back to the inside across Eddie Davis, and the contact was fairly incidental, but there was contact as Simon tried to get into that inside position right here. See as he crosses in.
That's number 29. Foul is in the end zone. Ball's placed on the 1-yard line. First down.
And I think Saskatchewan fans will wonder if that ball, number 1, was catchable. But the other question is how much contact was actually made. There was a grab.
I think
Simon
there's one other
inside.
question. Did Simon push off as much as the other way? The veterans will be battling all night long. 15 years in the league, Eddie Davis. And, of course, G. Roy Simon in his 11th year. It's a 1st and goal at the 1, and this has been an issue for the Lions. Ryan Grice-Mullen in motion. Jarius Jackson into the end zone. Picked off. Kai Stewart comes up with it, and it's another failure at the 1 for the Lions. What a story that is. Big defensive play by Saskatchewan.
Well, the Lions have been criticized over the last week about their lack of imagination down on the goal line. Jarius Jackson is going to fake the quarterback sneak here and then drop back and try and get the ball to Martell Mallet, number 35, the running back. But Mallet was way too shallow in front of the goal line, or Jarius Jackson was rushed and just didn't throw that where he wanted to. Either way, interception on the goal line for the Riders.
Boy, the goal line issues continue to mount for the BC Lions, and Kai Stewart comes up with the interception, and boy, Saskatchewan adding to its turnover totals. That's 22 takeaways on the season.
Yeah, but you can't have it both ways if you're a football fan in Vancouver. In other words, they've complained that there's no imagination down the goal line. It's quarterback sneak, and Jarius Jackson fumbled against Hamilton a week ago on the goal line. So they put in some imagination, and it doesn't work out. You can't have it both ways.
They can complain about execution, though. 2nd and 5, draw, Wes Cates, and he's stuffed at the line of scrimmage, and it'll force 3rd down. Here's what happened last week in Hamilton, a critical turning point in the game.
Yes, it was. It was Jarius Jackson down on the goal line. The Lions felt that he was down, and on top of the pile, there was no whistle. The ball was stripped out of there. Hamilton recovers it, and they go on to win the football game. Now, all week long, the coaching staff has been criticized here in BC about lack of imagination. Let's try some trick plays down there, keep them guessing. You know, that play down there that turns into the interception may help them down the road with regards to how they're defended.
There's Jamie Borum kicking it, and Ryan Grice-Mullen will handle the punt return duties with Treston George tonight up to midfield. Just a 34-yard punt and 9 on the return. Wendy's CFL on TSN Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona doing it right since 1939. 5 minutes into the opening quarter, we remain scoreless. Lions scrimmage at midfield. And handed off to Martell Mallet, surging to the 50 after bouncing off his teammate, providing a block, and Lion fans say that wouldn't have been a bad play down on the goal line.
No, but they can't say that. They can't say that because they've complaining about a lack of imagination. They got the imagination. Now, it didn't work out this time. But you know what it can do? It can influence the next time they're down on the goal line and players have to cover down everybody for Saskatchewan.
2nd and 5 for Buck Pierce. Looks to the out, looks for Emmanuel Arsenault, and in front of the Rough Rider bench has the catch and a first down, and number 84 already has 3 grabs on the night.
And I think the difference that I see here tonight with Buck Pierce at the start of this game, as opposed to the last couple of losses for the BC Lion, game in Hamilton, game in Calgary, is that his decision-making is lightning quick. He's dropping back, he has the ball in his hands, and in a couple of seconds, he has decided where he wants to go with it.
Just 186 yards passing in week 1 at Mosaic. Here's Mallet, big hole, and he's a hard runner down to the 37-yard line for Martel Mallet. 7 more, averaging 6.1 yards a carry coming into the game.
Well, you know, and he got off to a good start, Chris, in that first game of the year versus Saskatchewan. He only had 6 carries, but he had 63 yards on those 6 carries against the Saskatchewan defense, and that's a 10-yard average. So didn't get the ball a lot in that game, but he certainly had the good average.
4th in rushing. He had 12 carries for 91 last week in Hamilton. 2nd and 3. They fake to Mallet, and the completion to Lyle Green, and that should be close to a first down.
And again, this is the difference, I think, in Buck Pierce tonight as opposed to a couple of other nights. This is a play right here where Green's just going to come out and go to the flat. Now, Buck Pierce in the past, in the last couple of games, has hung on to this football and tried to bite off a bigger piece of real estate. This time he just says, you know what, that's a safe play. It's a good, easy throw. Drop it in there, make a quick decision.
Sean Lucas with the sure tackle that forces the chains to come out, but the Kitchener native Green in his 9th year has a first down. So Buck with a hot hand, 6 first downs for the Lions, and he has yet to throw an incompletion. A screen, Mallet has a block, and Martel Mallet brought down by Eddie Davis and Stevie Baggs down at the 27-yard line.
And he displays his ability to catch the football. That was a tough catch to make. He made it look easy, but he had to turn around and go back over his opposite shoulder, number 35, right in the middle of your screen, check, and then go out to that little screen and watch. That's a tough catch for a running back. And I love what he does at the end of every one of these plays. He lowers his shoulder and becomes the hammer.
Aptly named, he's 3rd in yards from scrimmage this year. Only Coburn and Jamal Robertson have more. Mallet again off the right side, fumbles the football. Another turnover. Lance Frazier has the ball. Back-to-back takeaways by the Rough Riders defense. A lot like week 1 when these two teams combined for 15. So it remains scoreless here in BC.
Great pursuit on the backside by Luke Mullender, who's going to get some more playing time with the retirement of Scott Schultz. Look at this hustle. He doesn't quit on the play. Comes back from the backside and with his left arm strips Martel Mallet of the ball. Lance Frazier picks it up. 2nd turnover of the game for Saskatchewan.
Rough Riders had 4 fumble recoveries and 3 interceptions in the opening week. Here's Wes Cates. And Saskatchewan looks for its first down of the game. And we set the Rough Riders offense for you.
Last week, Wes Cates in the backfield, 2 yards short of a 100-yard game, 6.1 yard rushing average. Big difference for Darian Durant when they get him going. There's the receiving core. What a catch by Chris Getzlaff. 65-yarder for the winning touchdown against the Stampeders. Gene Makowski in his 2nd start after returning from injury.
Made a difference last week, as did Joel Bell, who has looked good 2 weeks in a row at right tackle. 2nd in a passing situation. Here comes pressure, Ricky Foley. But Durant gets it away and avoids the sack. So it's an incompletion, but plenty of heat from Ricky Foley, forcing Durant to throw it away.
And one of the newcomers in this lineup is right here, Juwan Armour, and he's going to cover Wes Cates coming out of the backfield. and that's where Darian Durant wanted to go. You see him look to his right, but that's Juwan Armour in coverage. That allows Ricky Foley time to get to Darian Durant, who saves the loss by throwing it away.
So a couple of fumbles or turnovers by the Lions, and two and outs for the Roughriders. And Borum sends it downfield. Ryan Grace Mullen on the second hop. Gets a flag and gets the corner. Got great speed, and Jamie Borum cuts him down at the Saskatchewan 41. Ryan Grace Mullen with a 29-yard return. Penalty markers down. An illegal block called on Jerome Dennis negates the return.
Jerome Dennis is going to be right at the point of attack, and Wally Buono's very concerned with penalties on the special teams. Little push in the back right there. That draws the penalty flag. Get another look at it from a different angle, right on Stewart. And you can see the right hand on that 4.
Means a difference of 41 yards. And the Lions start at their own 30 instead of the 41-yard line of Saskatchewan. 4 receivers wide side and over the middle. Paris Jackson the catch, Ray Williams the tackle. Let's check in with Farhan Lalji.
Chris, to give you an idea of just how big a problem BC's special teams have been, consider last week they took more penalties on special teams than they did on offense and defense combined. 9 penalties for 79 yards. 4 times because of penalties, BC had to start inside their 15, and only 4 times this season on 22 drives they've started outside their own 40-yard line. Wally Buono is tired of it. He said the next player who takes a stupid penalty, he's going to cut them. The biggest problem so far this year has been Ricky Foley and Turner Nandy. Nandy's not playing tonight. You saw Jerome Dennis take that penalty. The block's in the back. He calls stupid. Let's see what happens next week with Jerome Dennis.
And you just saw the 3rd turnover of the night on 3 possessions by the BC Lions. Sean Lucas has the pick.
This is a timing issue, and right when we start to say that Buck Pierce looks like he is making quick decisions, he's a little long on this one. And it may be due to the fact that he had play action and he had a Saskatchewan defender in Marcus Adams right in his face. That held off for a split second on the throw. The timing was bad, and Sean Lucas jumps the ball on that out throw.
5th turnover he's been involved in this year as a recovery, 3 forced fumbles, and now his first interception. And turnover's the story of this first quarter. Durant on a roll, looking downfield. He's got an open man. Rob Bagg, touchdown. And Darian Durant makes BC pay for their 3rd mistake.
This is how dangerous a quarterback can be when he's outside of the pocket and extending the play, as Darian Durant this time is going to go full roll to his right. Now once he gets outside, that extends the play. Receivers can break off their routes. They can double move Rob Bagg in behind Tristan George.
It's the first CFL touchdown for Rob Bagg. 47 yards. Kanji the point after with the penalty marker on the play. Biggest play of the season for Bagg, whose longest catch was 19 coming in. And just 1 for -1 last week. It's a different story here early tonight.
Offside. BC number 72. 5-yard penalty will be applied on the kickoff.
You know, I talked to Ken Miller about his stable of Canadian receivers, and it is a good-looking group. When you consider Rob Bagg is starting to come into his own, Andy Fantuz is on the injured list still right now, but he's not going to be much longer. Chris Getzlaff playing well. And you throw in Jason Claremont, who we haven't even got to yet in this game, returning to BC. And that is a good stable of Canadian receivers. Rob Bagg, his first touchdown. Congratulations to him. He got in behind Tristan George.
Great story, an undrafted player who actually made the team a couple of years ago and surprised the coaching staff by saying, I'm going to go back to school and finish up. Well, he's finally found the end zone. A couple of big 50-yard plus plays last year. And now a first career major to get Saskatchewan in front. And what about the confidence level of a Lions team that's already been struggling?
it's funny because this first quarter, Chris, they've been moving the ball. They've got some first downs. They had a nice long drive early on. We're right down on the goal line, but turning it over, and that was the case, as you mentioned, in week 1.
Kickoff from the 40. After an offside on the convert. Ryan Bryce Mullen dancing again. And there's another penalty marker. And as Farhan mentioned, Wally Buono calls these choice penalties. You have a choice whether to create the infraction or not, and he'll have a choice on whether he wants to keep the culprits around.
On the return, holding, BC number 3, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Tad Crawford this time, the 24th penalty against the Lions special teams this year.
Well, and he just hung on a little bit too long to Omar Morgan on this special team return. There he is right there in the middle of your screen. He's got the shoulder pad and he turns him a little bit. And when he does and pushes him to the side with his handful of jersey, he gets the call. And you heard Farhan talk about what Wally Buono said in his meetings this week to his team. He said, bad choice penalties on the teams. If they continue, I will have to start cutting people. In my time in football, I've never heard a coach come into a meeting and say that and be, you know, that to the point as Wally Buono was. So, you know, Jerome Dennis and Tad Crawford are right now a little bit concerned.
And so is the head coach. Joel Lipinski was shaken up for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and there's Chuck McMahon and dealing with Tad Crawford as Lipinski makes his way off.
First and 10, Lions, 22.
So the Lions have had the football 3 times. They've turned it over 3 times, and now they'll start from their 22. Pearson, that's knocked down. The big rush from Joe Sykes, who was quiet in his CFL debut last week, replacing the injured John Chick, who should be back next week.
You know, this is a difficult situation for the Lions because when you look at their last 4 games offensively, they've been a team that have actually racked up some yards. Let's take that Calgary game right out of the mix for a second. That's their bad game. That's the one that they didn't play well in all phases. If you take that game out, they've averaged 434 yards of offense. Now, that may be saying the glass is half full, but you can't win if you turn it over.
2nd and 10. That pass complete, and Paris Jackson with a catch. And a first down for the Lions, and Jackson has 3 on the night.
Just a little hot pass for the 3rd receiver inside, Paris Jackson. He's had a couple of those tonight just like that one.
15-yard gain. Mike Stadnick checking in, a youngster for the Lions, or for the Roughriders on defense. Drawing in with the retirement of Scott Schultz. Big gain by Mallet. Sean Lucas rides him down, but not before Mallet gets all the way to midfield.
But you're right, Chris, and I agree 100%. The more the Lions, and I hate to use this cliche, but shoot themselves in the foot, the more they do, that confidence level has got to be dropping. And what you're concerned about if you're Wally Buono is that Buck Pierce starts to get gun shy, doesn't want to let it go, doesn't want to make that natural read and just sling the ball like he can.
Mallet with 18, first down midfield. And Pierce, another completion and another catch by Paris Jackson to the Roughrider 48.
Little chemistry created here between Buck Pierce and Paris Jackson. We continue to just get those first down throws, basically just get to the sticks and turn around, find a little hole. That's what Paris Jackson is doing very well. That's one of the reasons they felt it was okay to let Jason Claremont go and move Paris Jackson into that slot position where Claremont used to play.
Paris Jackson threw the first interception on the goal line. Pierce has been picked off once. Mallet has fumbled. But here they are, 2nd and 2. And Mallet is stuffed right at the line. What a big play by the kid I was talking about, Mike Stadnick, the local product who turns 23 tomorrow and celebrates with his first CFL tackle. Product of Miller High School in Regina.
Well, the Lions have been going with this play a few times in a row now, and this time Michael Stadnick reads it. He doesn't honor any fake from Buck Pierce and is in the backfield.
Sean White angles the punt. Weston Dressler at his 5. And Dressler brought down by James Juracek up across the 10-yard line. In the final minute of this interesting first quarter.
Has been interesting. Let's take a look at that defense for the BC Lions. Ranked last against the run. Brent Johnson, the veteran. There's Juwan Armour in the middle of that defense. Javi Glatt moved to the special teams, their starting linebacker. More on that as this game goes on. And Tristan George has let Rob Bagg in behind him once already tonight. But other than that is a veteran secondary with Ryan Phillips, Barrett Miles, and Dante Marsh.
With that touchdown pass, Darian Durant now leads the CFL with 8. And that pass is picked off. And the Lions get it right back. Corey Banks with the interception, his second of the year.
Well, and this is amazing because you've seen knockdowns, you've seen balls batted through the air on a blitzing defensive player from the secondary of the linebacking corps, but rarely do you ever see an interception when he jumps in front of the quarterback like this. But what a heads-up play by Corey Banks. He's going to come from over here to the right of your screen. He times his jump, and when he does, he catches his ball, and he is only about 3 yards, 4 yards from the quarterback, Darian Durant. You just don't see that. What an athletic play.
Velcro. Corey Banks, 29th career interception. And now the Lions are set up first and goal from the 6. And the pass cut down Mallet at the 4-yard line. Good defensive play there. And I believe that's Omar Morgan a little slow to get up. And it is.
You know, this is a fairly simple throw to make, except for if it's off slightly, it can cause a challenge for the running back. As he comes out, Mallet to the right, he has to turn backwards and then spin around and really doesn't get a chance to see Omar Morgan coming. We're talking about the difference of about 4 or 5, maybe 6 inches. If the ball is 6 inches more to the inside, Mallet can catch that, turn the corner, and maybe make a move in the open field on Omar Morgan. Because it's just slightly behind him, he has to spin, regroup, and by then Morgan's there to put a big hit on him.
Veteran got the worst of the exchange. He remains down. Martel Mallet into the game as the leading receiver among running backs in the CFL. Is it me, or are they not throwing to the backs as much early this season?
Yeah, I get the same feeling, Chris, and I'm wondering if maybe, and I'd have to go and look back at a lot of the games, but I'm wondering if possibly they're keeping the backs in offenses to block, because defensive play is up. Overall offense is down a little bit this year, and they may be wanting to keep backs like Martel Mallet in the backfield to help out with protection of the quarterback.
So Pierce a chance to confer on the sidelines as Omar Morgan tries to dust the cobwebs.
Jacques Chapdelaine and Dan DeRazio are the offensive, basically, co-coordinators. I think Dan DeRazio has the actual title. Jacques Chapdelaine will call the plays. I had a long discussion with him yesterday. There's Dan DeRazio, and he will really work on the run game primarily, and Jacques Chapdelaine will call it and work with Buck Pierce in the passing game.
Well, they've been down here once at the 1, and Jarius Jackson threw an interception. This is a tougher play call, second and goal from the 3. But the Lions have to find a way to get into the end zone.
Well, at the 3, you will leave your regular offense in the game. And it's not till you get to that 1-yard line that you put in the big, we used to call them elephants, but they've got lots of names, and that's when Jarius Jackson comes in. Right now, that regular O will stay in the field.
Looks like Ted Cornegay will kick out to the corner and replace Omar Morgan and Kai Stewart into the game defensively.
How about that for versatility for Tad Cornegay? Started the game at linebacker, and we're going to bump you out, not just a halfback or safety, we're going to bump you out to corner.
Well, he did have 4 game starts on the corner last year for Saskatchewan. Final play, first quarter. And the Lions looking to get back on even terms. Second and goal from the 3. And Buck Pierce, Martel Mallet, touchdown. Finally, a drive for BC that ends up the right way.
Very similar play to the one where Omar Morgan was hurt. Mallet went out the left side of the formation that time. This time he's going to go out the right side. Quick throw from Buck Pierce, who had Stevie Baggs right in his face, but a wide open Martel Mallet for the touchdown.
And now Sean White adds the extra point. 15 minutes in the books, and we're dead even in Vancouver. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, if you took the score off that page and you just looked at the 2 columns, you would think the Lions would have maybe a 2-touchdown lead because they've dominated time of possession. They've moved the ball pretty successfully, but except for the 3 turnovers. Now, the Saskatchewan Roughriders had that one big play, 47 yards, Rob Bagg from Darian Durant.
Lions also overcame some adversity in that. I mean, there was enough reason to maybe say, here we go again.
Yeah, they did, and especially Buck Pierce, who, again, generates some yardage. They turned the ball over, a fumble, an interception that wasn't Buck Pierce. Jarius Jackson was in the game for that one. And then you're right, Chris, he does show some resilience to cap off that short drive after the turnover with a touchdown to Martel Mallet.
So 4 turnovers in the opening quarter. And now the Roughriders take the kickoff, and Jerron Walker. And there's Javi Glatt, who isn't the starting middle linebacker, has to play special teams, and you know, he's got to burn his saddle tonight to make an impact there.
And I think he will, you know, knowing Javi Glatt and how he plays and what kind of person he is. He will have a good game on the special teams. He didn't say anything. Obviously, he's not happy about the situation and to be moved out of the middle. But this team was giving up a lot of yardage along the ground, ranked last, close to 150 yards a game, and they brought in Juwan Armour to try and shore that up.
Darian Durant has thrown his 8th touchdown, but his 7th interception, and that pass incomplete. Big jolt there by the corner, Dante Marsh, on Weston Dressler.
Now Dante Marsh comes up and plays aggressively, and I think that's what Wally Buono wanted most out of the insertion of Juwan Armour. Not necessarily how many tackles he makes tonight or how many plays he makes tonight in the statistical categories, but more about the edge that he brings, the intangible. He likes to play on the edge. He likes to play aggressively.
2nd and 10. 3-man rush, 9 drop. Out of the backfield, Cates. And Javi Glatt's there to help make the tackle along with Juwan Armour.
You know, and Javi Glatt will play some downs, some reps on defense. And you can see both Juwan Armour and Javi Glatt in the game in this situation. But you think Javi Glatt will be focused on making some things happen here tonight? Absolutely, and that's a good tackle in the open field on a great running back in Wes Cates.
Wally Buono said he had to make a change, and Javi Glatt was the victim, even if it wasn't completely fair. Flag down, Ryan Grace Mullen on the return up to the 38. And what's more flags are flying at either end of the field. James, you're a check involved, and I'm not sure the Lions have dealt with the special team penalty issues. Bishop's product. again, markers at either end of the field, and the coach did not look happy with the rookie cover man.
Well, his was late. The other one was back at the line of scrimmage where the ball was punted from.
Illegal formation. Saskatchewan, not enough men on the line of scrimmage. Major foul, unnecessary roughness. 94 BC. 10-yard penalty, cumulative first.
First and 10, Lions on the 28.
Sure, BC has a 94. We think we know who the culprit was.
Yeah.
But maybe that's...
Yeah, it's James Jurachuk, number 47, and he's
trying to get him off the hook with the coach.
No, he's cruising there, and you can see there the hit when the play was basically over, and everyone stopped and relaxed, and that's going to draw a flag. That is one of the penalties that Wally Buono was talking about when he talked about choice penalties. You had a choice there. James Jurachuk had a choice. Do I hit him this late in the process, or do I let up and run by him? And there's Jerome Dennis, who has a penalty early on the teams.
I think one of the concerns when you hear a coach threaten jobs with penalties that it might take the edge away from the cover team. That hasn't happened, but they haven't been able to eliminate the penalties either. And so, back at the 28. Here's Pierce, and he has a strike to G-Roy Simon, his first of the night.
You know what I like about this play, Chris, from the Lions' perspective, is that Buck Pierce is going to roll to the tackle pocket, and he's going to change his launch point. Go ahead and run it, guys. He play actions, and then he rolls out. G-Roy's going to run the dig route, which is down the field, 10 to 15 yards, and then straight across the middle, almost in a 90-degree angle. And watch how Buck Pierce play action and move outside right over that tackle and deliver a strike down the middle.
22 for G-Roy Simon, who had just 3 for 14 against the Roughriders in week 1. Martel Mallet and Sean Lucas is there as Mallet's brought down at the 50 after 5.
G-Roy Simon, this time last year, had 23 catches. He had 18 coming in, and that doesn't seem like a big difference. Where the difference lies is in the yardage, and he had, this time last year, over 200 more yards than he does right now. That's why they're concerned. They want to get the ball more to G-Roy.
And G-Roy wants G-Roy to get the ball more. 2nd and 5. Bunch formation wide side, and Pierce looks across, and O'Neill Wilson can't hang on with Kai Stewart on his back. And the Lions will have to kick it away.
Pretty good pressure up the middle, and it forced a bit of a rush throw, and Buck Pierce could not allow O'Neill Wilson to take another couple steps and get open. He kind of threw it right into coverage right there. Made it a bit of a tougher catch because of that pressure down the middle.
Sean White just gets that away. And Jerron Walker fields it and heads the wrong way, and he's going to be wrapped up. Dan McCullough brings him down at the 15-yard line. It's a loss of 9 on the return. Well, it was one of the plays of the year so far. Just over a minute to go.
Darian Durant finds Chris Getzlaff in zero coverage with the safety blitz. It was out of the middle. Getzlaff took the middle, took the touchdown, and won the game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders on a night when Ken Miller switched quarterbacks in the second quarter.
65-yard play. Here's the handoff straight ahead. And Wes Cates up across the 20. Late flag. Darian Durant did mention that Calgary had blitzed on 4 or 5 consecutive 2nd and longs, and so they were ready for the next 2nd and long situation. And that bomb to Getzlaff with the Stampeders in a safety blitz.
Looks like this will go against the BC Lions if Darian Durant's body language is any indication. And it will. But I mentioned Ken Miller's decision
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. BC number 95. 15 yards at the end of the play, first down.
Ricky Foley with another one of those choice penalties.
First down, Roughriders have a penalty on the 37.
I think he just fell on the pile, Ricky Foley. Just to the left of your screen, here comes number 95, and a little push there on Jeremy O'Day.
Did some of these guys miss the Wally Mono meeting?
They missed the meeting. Didn't get
Pass
the
for
memo.
Dressler. Incomplete.
But, you know, I mentioned the decision last week by Ken Miller, which I thought in a lot of ways was a good one. I know there were some who criticized it, not only to put Stephen Giles in the game, but also to announce that he was going to do it and stuck with his plan. But it should be noted that it was a big game for Darian Durant. You just saw the Getzlaff throw. Stephen Giles also had a huge drive that was important and not talked about in that game much.
Ken Miller said both quarterbacks had success without it being at the expense of the other. Here's a great pass, and Bag has another catch. And a few yards after the catch into BC territory and out at the line 48. It's 25 more for the Queens product, Rob Bag.
He's got a touchdown on the board already, and now a nice crossing route. And I asked Darian Durant when he sat on the sideline for that second quarter in those 3 or 4 series, did he get any perspective? Did he learn anything? He said, absolutely. He said, I watched the body position of defenders. I saw some coverages. I got into more of a comfort zone. So the plan worked for Ken Miller.
First down, Roughriders. And Wes Keats down to the 45, has 3.
And that drive, Chris, just to cap off this thought from Stephen Giles, was a 15-play drive that covered 69 yards in the second quarter. And there was about a 50-kilometer to 70-kilometer wind in his face. It kept the ball away from Henry Burris and that offense in Calgary for over 5 minutes.
2nd and 7, Roughriders. Durant rolls. And now fires, and it's complete. And a first down catch for Jerome Walker. They'll mark him at the line 33.
Big block by Wes Cates here to get Darian Durant outside of the pocket. This is an all-around back, folks, at his best. Number 20 in the backfield here. Watch how he comes out. And as he gets outside position here, he's going to stop right there Jawan Armour from getting outside and into containment. Without that block, Durant can't get outside.
First down after the 12-yard completion. Wide open, Rob Bag. Another Saskatchewan touchdown. Liked it so much, he did it again.
Complete confusion between Corey Banks and Dante Marsh. Corey Banks is right here, and he gets lost in this coverage a little bit. Darian Durant is given the time to allow this pattern to develop down the field, and a wide open Rob Bag.
First CFL touchdown in the opening quarter, and now he has 2. And the Roughriders have the lead, and another penalty on the convert. Bag already over 100 on the night. On TSN is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. This is our beer. The Queens Golden Gales golf tournament's coming up in the next week or so, and I think I know what they'll be talking about. Did you see Rob Bag's night in BC?
And we're just in quarter number 2.
3 catches, 105 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. Here comes Ryan Grace Mullen, and he can fly. Well, it continues the big play string for the Roughriders against the Lions. 30-yard pass plays. They've had 12 on the year and 7 against BC.
And to make those big plays, you have to have the protection up front. And since Gene Mikowski's been brought back, Joel Bell has been added. That offensive line has provided their quarterbacks with time to make those long throws down the field.
So last week it was 65 to Getzlaff. Here tonight, the offense hasn't really moved up and down the field, but strikes of 47 and 33 to Rob Bagg. They're going vertical, and now Buck Pierce has to answer. G. Roy Simon has a catch short of a first down, brought down by Ted Cornegay.
Well, this may be a slight adjustment here for BC to try and put G. Roy Simon now by himself on the backside of the formation, one-on-one on Tad Cornegay. Now, you mentioned he does have experience at corner, but to have to bump out there right now is an adjustment made because Omar Morgan on the sideline still with injury.
Yeah, Omar Morgan is at the end of the Roughriders bench area. In fact, he was very close to where Cornegay made the tackle on Simon. 8 minutes left, first half. Martel Mallet trying to bounce it out. Keith Joligan, the Spruce Grove product, preventing a first down on second and short, and it looks like it's going to be 3rd and a yard. And maybe close enough for a measurement. So the Lions, with the exception of the turnovers, have moved the ball with a little more effectiveness or consistency, but nothing beats the quick strikes of those touchdown passes by Durant.
Yeah, it's been an interesting game that way. The Lions have sort of the majority of the offense, but turnovers stop drives, and Saskatchewan with 2 big throws. Rob Bagg.
So 3rd and a few chain links for the Lions. And the big team checks in with Jarius Jackson. Andrew Jones, Justin Sorensen helped beef up that Lions offensive line, and Jackson plunges ahead for the first down.
Saw Ryan Grice-Mullen coming across the formation there in the Hamilton game. He was handed the ball for a touchdown out of that same series. This time Jarius Jackson keeps it and gets the first down. So there is some imagination being implemented into the offense when it comes to short yardage for BC. Hasn't always worked the way they want it to, but they are injecting some different looks.
First down, Lions at their own 45. Pressure and a quick hitter. Completion, and Rufus Skillern has his first catch and a first down into Rough Rider territory.
Yeah, the BC Lions in between the 20s. Able to continue to move the sticks. I mentioned Ryan Grice-Mullen. He's been one of the casualties of Wally Buono at 1 and 4 earlier on. He was benched for a while, back in the lineup now, but it was Rufus Skillern who came in for him.
Skillern led the Lions in receiving last week, 6 for 67 in Hamilton, 15 there. And that ball batted down. Stevie Baggs, who was the defensive player of the week in week 1, with a terrific performance against the Lions, climbs the ladder to knock that down.
14 tackles on the year, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He already has an interception on a similar play to that this year where he tipped it up and caught it himself.
And that's his 3rd knockdown of the season.
Nice looking resume starting to be built by Stevie Baggs.
Sets up 2nd and 10. Paris Jackson can't hold on. Ball delivered on the money, and Jackson unable to make the catch.
Decent coverage on Paris Jackson down the seam here. He's going to end up right in the middle of your screen. Buck Pierce will try and look off to the left and then go back to the backside screen. Here he comes, number 19. It's Sean Lucas, I think, just distracts him with his left hand before that ball arrives, because that's one that Paris Jackson catches 9 out of 10 times.
White looking for the corner. And that one fielded at the 4, and Gerard Walker not going anywhere. Jason Araki downfield in a hurry. Welcome back to BC Place Stadium, where on the sidelines is Farhan Lalji.
Chris, tonight is Jason Claremont's first game at BC Place as the member of the visiting team, and if you told him coming into this game he'd have just 7 catches for 81 yards, he'd have looked at you a little strange. Claremont is the 5th receiver for the Riders tonight. When Andy Fantuz is healthy, he's the 6th receiver, and it's not the role he signed up for when he returned home, but he is happy about one thing, that no matter what happens, he gets to go home to his wife and family every single day, and as long as the team is winning, he'll accept the role. But if they're losing, things might change. As for his former team, he says he is not the least bit surprised the Lions are struggling at this point.
Pass batted down at the line of scrimmage as the Roughriders are backed up, and as you might expect, not nostalgic in any way. Jason Claremont, always all business.
And he will start to develop more chemistry with Darian Durant. In fact, I asked Durant about it, and he said he's starting to learn more of the body language from Jason Claremont and his route running. There was a play on 2nd and 18 a week ago where he hit Jason Claremont to convert and move the chains last week.
2nd and 10 in the din of BC Place. And that ball incomplete. Weston Dressler unable to hang on, and the Lions come up with a big 2-and-out deep in Saskatchewan territory.
The other thing about Jason Claremont, to wrap that thought up, is this is a guy who is outstanding Canadian in a Grey Cup. Yes, the Lions lost that year, but he's been a Rookie of the Year. He's an award winner. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. His influence in the locker room, his leadership, and a guy who has been there and done that and had a lot of success in this league is crucial in that locker room. So there's more to just the numbers on the field for Jason Claremont in that signing.
He's that 3-letter word, pro.
Absolutely.
Likely to see a safety here as Justin George is ready in case, but Borum about a dozen yards deep. And he will back up and step out. And it's a 5-point Saskatchewan lead. Well, the CFL on TSN continues tomorrow. Another doubleheader of action. Game 1, the Eskimos take on the Tiger Cats in Hamilton. Game 2, it'll be Winnipeg and the Stampeders at McMahon. Live coverage 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific.
Wally Buono sits at win 228, trying to become the all-time winningest coach in CFL history, past Don Matthews. He completely downplayed it through training camp when asked at least 1,000 times, and now we're getting a sense as to why.
Yeah.
Because he said, look, if we're a team that only wins 5 games all year, it doesn't matter. It's an ugly season, it's a bad season. This thing has started out pretty ugly for Wally Buono, and you can see that intensity on the sideline as he paces up and down.
When we talked to him in Regina prior to the first game of the year, he said, you know, it won't be a cause for celebration if it takes 11 weeks. And thinking back on it, you almost wonder if he knew something.
Well, lots of changes in that lineup, without question.
Ryan Grace Mullen takes the kickoff. He's looked dangerous tonight. All the way across midfield before he's brought down a 27-yard return. Well, Wally Buono knows about winning, but doesn't take winning for granted.
The thing about losing is that nobody's immune to it. You know, I get the sense that everybody's shocked and surprised. You know, there's nobody immune to it. Everybody in this business is good at what they do. And, you know, at the end of the day, their job is to beat you. And so, you know, I'm understanding that. I don't like that. This is not something that I want to continue. But, you know, it's not something that you're immune to.
Now it's been interesting watching him push buttons with his team needing some kind of change, and we've seen the personnel changes, and we may see more if it continues.
Well, you may, and that was in some ways.
Saskatchewan number 95, 5-yard penalty, repeat first down.
Penalty against Luke Mullender for offside there. But in some ways, that was Wally Buono's way of respecting the opponent. And he was basically saying, look, everyone gets paid to play. But you're right, he is pushing buttons, and he's trying to turn this thing around. And at a 1-4 start, Bryce Mullen felt the wrath when Skillern came in. Javi Glatz on special teams for Juwan Armour now. Glover's been benched for George. And we've already cut, the BC Lions have cut Walter Stith for Darren Heerspin. So he's making changes.
1st and 5 after the penalty. A crosser to Paris Jackson. Cuts it back and has a first down. Big hit. Stevie Baggs and Gene Patrick, and Paris Jackson is slow to get up.
And hits like this, I think, surprise a receiver because they don't expect a defensive lineman to be that far down the field. They're sort of lining up the DBs and the linebackers, and they're prepared for those hits, and then when number 90 hustles all the way back there and puts that big hit on him, that one surprises you a little bit, I think.
And Jackson needs help to the sidelines. He knew there'd be more of those hits getting moved inside.
Yeah.
Stevie Baggs just is all over the football field. First down, pressure, dumped off, and Mallet is cut down. And there's Kai Stewart, who's now a regular in the defense with the injury to Omar Morgan. 3-minute warning to the benches. 5 points, Saskatchewan lead.
Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport.
Back in Vancouver, 2nd and 6. BC has the football at the Saskatchewan 36-yard line. Buck Pierce over the middle, incomplete. Trying to hook up again with Paris Jackson, who is back in after that jolt from Stevie Baggs.
BC Lions haven't really gone after Tad Cornegay yet at that corner spot, but I'm sure they will as the game goes on. Omar Morgan is now on the sideline, and they're saying he's got a bit of a headache, and we're hearing that can't remember the play. In that case, they will be very careful with Omar Morgan. Look at him at halftime, I'm sure. And when that happens, you kind of take the player's helmet and you put it somewhere where you can't find it, because players tend to grab it and go back in there. You got to be careful when you're talking about head injuries.
There's the youngster Sean White from 44 yards out, and he is good. 4 for 5 in replacing Paul McCallum, and it's now a 2-point game. And we have 2:24 remaining in an interesting first half. Lots to talk about for Dave Randorf, Queen's product Jock Climbey, who will talk about Rob Bagg, Matt Dunnigan, and Chris Schultz.
Okay, you're at your limit.
Yes, it's done now. And I see the Schultz Network signs. I think they're talking about 96, and our best wishes to number 96 in his early retirement, which kind of reminded me about another high-profile Rough Rider who retired early back in 1995.
Well, you know, Scott Schultz, one of the great players, made our league better, made the game better, a homegrown Moose Jaw kid who dreamed of playing for the team. I loved his quote when he was retiring this week, saying, you know, I was a Rough Rider way before I ever played for the team, and I always will be.
Well, we do wish him well. There's a big hit on special teams. Jerron Walker taken down. Ted Crawford took a penalty earlier, and he's trying to atone for it.
Trying to make up for a big hit there. But, you know, just to wrap up the Scott Schultz thought, I mean, was there a better guy in the league for the big quote? Scott Schultz, when you went to talk to him, called the position that he had at the interior of that defensive line, he called it the human blender position. And he said when he retired that when he was asked, what is one of the things you will miss?
Wes Cates. And a first down all the way to the 44-yard line.
He was asked, what do you think one of the things you're going to miss when you do retire? And Scott Schultz, without hesitating, said, well, I'm going to miss the rookies because I could tell the same old lame jokes, but the rookies would always laugh because they hadn't heard them before. He was always great for the quote. An excellent football player, a hard-nosed guy in the middle. Congratulations on a great career, Scott.
Number 1 pick in the CFL draft in 2001. There's Rob Bagg, another catch, and skips out of the grasp of Tristan George. His 4th catch, and it's close to another first down. I'll remember a game against the BC Lions where he made a big play and he ran off, and the microphones picked up the fact he was calling the Lions fat and sassy. And I'm not sure I'd ever heard a football player say sassy before, but
he could get away with it.
Yeah, he could.
Great career, and he will forever be a Rough Rider in his heart. We know that, and good luck for him in his new venture.
128 games, 35 career sacks. But I mentioned that I don't think a lot of people were ready to hear him retire, and you had to make a similar decision 14 years ago.
And the one thing I would say with Scott Schultz is that one day he'll look back at it and he'll be one of the few players in football, in professional sports, for that matter, that will be able to walk away on their terms, because often that doesn't happen.
Rough Riders have a first down at their own 54-yard line. Feeding Wes Cates off the left side again, and a good run by Cates down to the BC 48.
Well, they're starting to get this running game, and Wes Cates starting to get going a little bit here for Saskatchewan. I saw a little bit of it in the previous series. It was very important for Saskatchewan's success in Calgary a week ago. 98 yards for Cates rushing. But it was when they faked it to him that he was equally as important, because it got Darian Durant outside often in the passing game.
Second and 3. Back to Cates, and they're waiting for him this time behind the line of scrimmage. Brent Johnson there, Ricky Foley, and Corey Banks all in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's another play by Corey Banks. And
timeout, BC.
Who comes out and helps out on this play. Banks has been asked this year to move in a very different position for him. A linebacker spot, that tweener spot. And he comes up, comes on the blitz off the edge, and is right there to make first contact on Wes Cates and allow Ricky Foley to come and help out. A couple of big plays for Banks.
Well, you heard the Lions have called a timeout. 84 seconds on the clock. With the Saskatchewan Roughriders holding on to a 2-point lead. BC with 5 points in the second quarter. In their first 2 home games did not score in the second quarter. Ryan Grice-Mullen from his 9. And he breaks out across the 30. Wally Buono yesterday told us that he thought Ryan Grice-Mullen would make a huge impact on returns, and he is showing flashes of that tonight.
Work his way back in the lineup, Grice-Mullen, and Buck Pierce, after almost the first half of play, respectable numbers, 16 of 22. Thought he made quick decisions in the first quarter and has looked sharp at times. 2 of the 3 turnovers for the Lions, not his fault. Jarius Jackson threw 1 interception on the goal line, and Martel Mallet had 1 fumble.
First and 10 over the middle, and Paris Jackson can't hang on. Sean Lucas there again.
Paris Jackson on that inside position is often the first read for quarterback Buck Pierce to take a look at him over the middle. But since he was hit by Stevie Baggs, he's had 2 drops in a row, and you wonder if he is still a little shaken up from that hit. Saskatchewan
defense has been tough on Buck Pierce over the years. Fell to less than 200 yards passing in 2 of his last 3 starts. In trouble here. Gets away. Stevie Baggs got him. Having another big night. Stevie Baggs with his 4th sack and 3 have come against the Lions.
Second and third effort from Stevie Baggs because it looked like Buck Pierce might have escaped. Baggs is right here down in the 3-point stance at defensive right end. Buck Pierce looks like he escapes the first contact in the middle right there and was going to get outside and cause problems for the Rider defense, but Baggs dives. Initially, Buck Pierce wanted to go to G. Simon. Look at Lance Fraser's coverage on him. Right in his hip pocket.
And now it turns because the Roughriders use their timeout. They should get the ball in decent field position with a little under a minute left to try and enhance this lead.
How about the effort from Stevie Baggs, Chris? Like, we saw the play where he went 20 yards down the field to put a hit on a receiver in Paris Jackson. You see him on the backside of that play, run down and dive to trip up Buck Pierce. He's having a good first half.
Got a great motor. Good kick by White. Jerron Walker, and he fielded that out of play, and they're going to mark it at the 36. 47-yard boot. Rough Riders might ask if that ball was going to be out.
This is another one of the top 5 good things that the Lions have done, according to Wally Buono, and that's the play of Shaun White. And not just his field goal percentage at 75 coming in, but also his punting. His directional punting has been outstanding since he's replaced Paul McCallum. So a real bright light for the BC Lions in a 1-4 start to have Shaun White kicking well.
Well, that's a great boot. You wonder if Jerron Walker let that go, if it actually would have gone out and would have been a penalty.
Boy, it might have. I think you're right. Split-second decision. He doesn't have much time there.
At the same time, should the flag be thrown anyway because he fields that out of bounds?
Well, he has to make that decision in a heartbeat, because if it bounces inbounds and goes down the field,
there is the call. So they
10-yard penalty. Repeat third down.
They called it because his feet were out.
His feet were out, so the ball was out, and Murray Clark's crew makes the right call, and that will improve the field position.
But Jerron Walker kind of dodges one there a little bit, because you're right, that ball looked like it was going out of bounds there, and he probably should have let that one go. It turns out okay for him because he caught it out of bounds.
And now the Lions punt team comes back on the field. Cover team's already run the downfield once, so this sets up for the Roughriders to get much better field position with 52 seconds left in this first half.
And in fairness to Jerron Walker, in fairness to him, you teach punt returners to make sure you catch the ball in the air, because if you let it bounce, you just never know. So if it's going to be any type of doubt, he's going to try and catch that, which he did, was out of bounds. So you're right, Shaun White will have to try and kick it away here again.
So what looked like the perfect punt from White to 47 yards with no return is now a do-over for the Lions. And Jerron Walker will wait just inside his 40. And maybe have to move up now as they mark it right back to the 17-yard line. Just wanted to confirm the line of scrimmage, and now Walker moves up and he awaits at the Rough Rider 45.
Well, field position drastically changes here. No matter where this ball goes.
I think we're set. Low snap.
Whoa.
And just got it away with Weston Dressler off the edge. And then the ball is loose. And who's got it? Lions knock it downfield. Flag down. The ball still loose. Into the hands for a touchdown, O'Neal Wilson. But there are markers.
Okay.
And will the initial call be no yards?
Well, wait a minute. Two things. One is, was it no yards? But Wally Buono is discussing that if it was kicked, you are allowed to kick the football forward as long as it does not go out of bounds. You can advance the ball by kicking it as long as it stays in the field of play.
Jerron Walker heard you and didn't want that ball to hit the carpet, but it was a tough catch that he didn't make. And the ball ends up in play.
There's no infraction on the play.
Yeah.
The result of the play is a BC touchdown.
See, the official who threw the flag looked at the kicked football and thought if the ball is kicked, it goes out of bounds, then it goes to the opposition. So if the Lions kick it forward and it goes out of bounds, it's Saskatchewan ball. But if it stays inbounds on a kick, you can advance the ball. It's called dribbling. So there's the fumble. No one in the no yards area there. And the ball is touched. So there's no yards call. Now let's keep it running, and you'll see a hand there. Here comes the kick.
James Juracek.
And that's legal.
And the point after is good. And a first half that has been marked by turnovers is going to end on one of the strangest plays we've seen this year.
Well, and it's a unique rule to the Canadian Football League that you could dribble the ball forward. The downside of it is if it goes out of bounds, it's Saskatchewan's ball. But look at this soccer-style Juracek kick to keep it inbounds. It's dribbled forward, which is still live.
Mike
Pushed
McCullough
forward again, yeah, and then
Jason
O'Neill
Araki.
Wilson.
And what a generous hop into the hands of O'Neill Wilson for his first touchdown of the year.
Jerron Walker did try to catch it in the air, and that's what you're taught to do. But what a play by James Juracek to kick it forward, and then look at the bounce.
So we saw Ted Crawford maybe get off the hook, and now James Juracek.
I think they're both off the hook right now. But that's why,
for an earlier penalty.
Sorry, Chris, that's why Wally Guano came on the field so quickly, because that flag was thrown. Just when the ball is hit with the foot, they're going to check it out. They picked it up and said no call because you're allowed to dribble the ball forward.
Got to tell you a little story. He was checking with the officials before the game about another rule he wasn't sure about involving the kicks. We'll get to that in a moment. This is the detail, always thinking about the play you've never seen before. And Stu Ford on the return. You've heard of it, you've seen it on occasion. We haven't seen it very much lately, the kick out of the end zone at the end of the game.
Yes.
He wondered if you could kick it out inside the 20, or if you didn't kick it out inside the 20, would the kickback be an illegal kick? And apparently it's only the first punt where if the ball doesn't go out inside the 20, it's a penalty. But that's how detailed you are.
Well, they are.
He was thinking ahead to the possibility of a kickback tonight, deciding this game. Who'd have thought we would have seen that kind of play to give BC the lead? Cates with less than a half minute to go. Boy, it really looked like Saskatchewan was going to have a chance to add to their lead before the end of the half, and then one of the wackiest plays we've seen so far this season. Ken Miller's team's down.
Well, it was some kind of turn of events there. Lots of football to be played. It's too bad for Jerron Walker. I feel for him in that he did the right thing on both plays. He caught that first one, but he caught it out of bounds. Second one, he went to catch it in the air, and it just hit the turf. Unlucky.
Darian Durant's going to throw on second down, and he has Weston Dressler up near midfield, his first catch of the night, and there's 1 second left on the stadium clock here, which sometimes isn't in sync with the timers, but looks like they have time for one more play, and Darian Durant or Stephen Giles. Stephen Giles is going to come in for this final play of the half.
Which may indicate that they're going to drop Stephen Giles back as far as he can and then just see if he heaves it down. Maybe they get a penalty and one more play in the half or some kind of miraculous tip.
Last year it was Henry Burris to Teo Johnson in Calgary against Montreal. Final play first half, and Giles is going to try it. Jump ball, Johnny Quinn, intercepted. And Ryan Phillips has his third interception of the season, and they've all come against Saskatchewan. What a first 30 minutes of football, and the Lions have a 5-point lead.
Live at the half is brought to you by Rona. proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939.
Welcome inside our CFL on TSN studios. Dave, Jock, Matt, and Chris. And what a crazy second quarter that was. And really, the BC Lions survived what was a disastrous first 3 possessions in which they turned over the ball each and every time, and they got a 19-14 lead. And we may look back on this little moment here with James Jurachuk, I beg your pardon, from Brampton, Ontario. Only a Canadian boy would know these rules. Now, there's the bad penalty he takes as he knocks over Donovan Alexander and then celebrates and gets a stupid penalty, for which Wally Bono's told our Farhan Lal he's going to cut guys. And then he makes this play, Jock.
This is great. It's a little soccer play right there. But, you know, there's Americans would not know that you can kick that forward and recover.
But a guy out of Bishop's, 4th overall pick in this year's draft, does, and it ends up with a go-ahead touchdown for the BC Lions, 19-14. Up until that point, however, Saskatchewan's double bagging them. They were double bagging them.
Yeah, there's a couple bags in the field having great games.
Doing it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Rob Baggs started the night at 31st in the receivers list this season. He's moved up to 12 already from tonight's performance. 4 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's been a wild game, but this is a great route. Too bad we don't see if you stop and go right there, but he simply nailed that route on Tristan George. And to me, this is a nice little find here in Rob Baggs. Jock, where's he from?
Let's see. Where is it again?
Queens. Come on, get it out there.
Right,
Here,
Queens.
a nice corner route, loses his defender once again, and Darian Durant finds him. Rob Baggs having a night. Last week, it's Chris Getzlaff, and this week, it's Rob Baggs. And what a crazy, when we watch these games and we cover Saskatchewan, we get all kinds of crazy emails. I got folks from Esterhazy, Saskatchewan watching. We got Pierre McGuire and Gordon Miller. They're watching from Martusk in Saskatoon. They're watching right now, and they're all going nuts because this is one whale of a football game.
That's great. And, Chris Cuthbert was hoping that I'd talk about Bagg, but you grabbed all the highlights before I could get to them.
Sorry, brother.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Do you remember your first touchdown, Mr. Queen's Golden Gale?
Sure do. Damon Allen
Was it like
threw
that?
To me. That wasn't quite that long. It was a little shorter than that.
Were you his primary receiver?
He's scrambling around probably, but you know what? I'm really proud of the guy, and it's great for the Queens program. They'll be going wild in Kingston. I want to go back, though, to early in the football game and BC Lions' problems in terms of scoring down the 1-yard line. And, here's the history of why this is in the head of Jacques Chapdelaine, the offensive coordinator, and every member of that BC Lions offense. Because last year, they had huge problems. There's a West final where they couldn't score when they really needed it down close. This is last week where, obviously, this was a turning point in this football game, why they lost to Hamilton, and then this game. And what happens here is now they're thinking too much. Now they're thinking, we can't get 1 yard. We need tricks. You don't need tricks. Look at McPherson earlier tonight. He picks up 6 yards on this quarterback sneak. Then he goes rambling down and this is not the first time he's done this. McPherson, in fact, has done this all year. He's averaging over 5 yards on quarterback sneaks. It's not rocket science, but you do have to give it some thought, and you can't just fall forward. McPherson always takes the right side, goes around tackle, and makes positive yardage.
Keep it simple at the critical moments, and for the BC Lions, keep it simple. Keep running Martel Mallet. Your quarterback is good. He's decisive, and Buck Pierce, your run defense is really providing a job for you, especially compared to last year and Cobb in the previous game against the Howden Ticats. And Martel Mallet, I'll say it right now, he is a good replacement for Stephon Logan. This is impressive to me. You watch this play here, this is a fumble. Now, other running backs, they may go into the tank, but here's the very next carry for Martel Mallet. Look at the authority in which he splits the seam and runs with that football. That is a definition of mental toughness, and that is how you get rewarded right there. Keep running Martel Mallet. He sets up play-action pass possibilities, and I think he's done an outstanding job as a running back.
91 yards along the ground last week. One other point about goal line situations. You see the O-linemen got to be split further. Their splits are too close.
We talked about it a lot last year when they're soul to soul, and they get everybody in an 8-yard radius. And
condense the line.
And bring in all the receivers and move them out.
Move everybody out, create some more space.
Defend the field. You got all kinds of things.
Makes sense to me, Manny. Makes sense to me.
I just can't understand it.
It is 19-14. 47 yards on that play to Rob Bagg. 33 yards going the other way. He's got 2 tonight, Jock.
I love it.
Jail, baby.
Gibson's Finest CFL Players of the Week is brought to you by Gibson's Finest Canadian Whiskey. Your whiskey, your way.
Ticat running back Deandra Cobb was named Offensive Player of the Week for a second time as he rushed for a career-high 167 yards and 2 touchdowns to help lead Hamilton over a big win over BC. Chris Getzlaff had a 65-yard last-minute touchdown against Calgary that helped him win top Canadian honors. Meanwhile, Ticat linebacker Jamal Johnson was Defensive Player of the Week, and Edmonton's R. Key Whitlock was given the nod on special teams. And here are your halftime numbers, brought to you by Tim Hortons, always fresh. Chris Schultz.
Thank you, Dave. 2 points of improvement for the BC Lions. First, much better run defense, only 40 yards allowed. And look at this time of possession. That's Buck Pierce playing some good football.
Let's see what Wally Buono had to say to our Farhan Lalji.
Wally, that last touchdown just the way you drew it up?
Well, it was the way I drew it up, but, you know, that's the CFL, and that's why it's an exciting game.
Talk a bit about the first quarter. I mean, your team dominated statistically, but came away empty, and turnovers and penalties on specials continue to be a problem.
Well, it's hopefully going to get corrected, and the good thing right now is we fought through all that adversity and we're ahead.
Thanks, Wally.
BC trying to snap a losing streak, up 19-14 at the half. This is game 2 of our Friday night doubleheader. Game 1 was not one to remember for the Toronto Argonauts, and with those grisly details, Brian Mudryk joins us with a SportsCenter update.
Can you play receiver? Jock maybe come out of retirement?
Jock.
Because
sign me up.
The Argos need some help right now, seriously. You know, this was really ugly for Argonauts fans. The Montreal Alouettes, they haven't pitched a shutout on defense in over 3 decades, but they brought it tonight in this one, trying to rebound from that loss to Edmonton last week. 2-0 Owls in the second quarter. Third down, Avon Coburn diving. He's in there for the major. They're up 9-zip. Then Adrian McPherson will find Eric Wilson as Montreal takes it 25-0. Argos shut out for the first time in 17 years.
Credit Montreal. They came and they just basically whipped our tail tonight.
That pretty much sums it up. SportsCenter comes your way right after the doubleheader. Your CFL story, baseball highlights, plus a waiver offer on Alex Rios as well. Details coming up.
You're watching Friday Night Football on TSN. Go Lions, go!
TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL, a proud home of the 2009 Grey Cup game, retro night in Vancouver, and an old rugby play has given the Lions the lead as we join Farhan Lalji with Saskatchewan coach Ken Miller.
Coach, talk a bit about those first 3 drives when BC was able to move the ball, but you managed to survive without giving up a point.
Yeah, our defense bent a little bit, but we were able to get the big takeaways there that kept us alive, and then we were able to make a couple big plays offensively. Now we have to do a good job on teams as well.
Give us an update on Omar Morgan, whether or not he'll be back.
I don't know for sure whether he'll be back, so we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
There is the veteran corner on the end of the Saskatchewan bench after the first quarter collision with Martel Mallet. And no helmet near him yet. Ted Cornegay's been good on the corner for the Roughriders in his replacement.
Yeah, anytime it's the head injury or even the suspicion of a concussion, teams are going to be very, very careful with Omar Morgan and Saskatchewan to make sure that he is okay and not suffering even a mild concussion. I'd be surprised to see him back in there. Tad Cornegay's played pretty well on the corner, replacing him.
Wide-eyed Stu Ford ready for this kickoff, and he's got it at the Rough Rider 15. Good return, Stu Ford, but there is a marker down as Ford crosses midfield to the BC 50-yard line. Boy, he looked ready to get things kick-started in the second half, but this one's coming back.
Again, it looked like this penalty was right at the point of attack. I didn't get the
On the
number.
return, illegal block. Saskatchewan number 95, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Number called was Luke Mullender, and he was right at the point of attack as well. He's right in here, and there's number 95 to the right of your screen with a push in the back. I believe it's Anton McKenzie.
So that's a 47-yard differential. Darian Durant on a roll, gets a block from Wes Cates. Can't find anybody, now dumps it off, and who else but Rob Bagg. First half, he had 115 yards. The rest of the receiving corps had 37.
A couple of big plays from Darian Durant to Rob Bagg. A couple of touchdowns for him. 7 of 13, 152 yards. For Buck Pierce, he was 16 of 23, basically 70% completion percentage. But he had 3 drops from Paris Jackson, which would have pushed it up to 83%.
2nd and 5. Durant the out and almost picked. Dante Marsh read the mail, intended for Weston Dressler.
And did Darian Durant lock in a little bit there? It looked to me like when Dressler comes out and turns that out route, look how quickly Dante Marsh jumps it, and he was reading Durant, who had locked in with his eyes and looking right to that sideline from the start to finish on that play, and he got lucky there because that one was going back to the house.
Ryan Grace Mullen with 40 punt return yards on 3 returns in the first half. That is 39. Boy, he's quick. Can he get outside? Crease, and at midfield, dragged down. Joel Lipinski saved further damage. 16 on the return. Well, they're celebrating the 60s here in BC, and it was a decade in which the Lions went to their first Grey Cup in 63 and won in 64, and nobody in the league was more exciting than Willie the Wisp Fleming. And he is standing by with Farhan Lalji.
Willie, I know you're a big fan of these uniforms. How closely do you still watch the CFL?
Well, I get a chance to see about 2 games a year down south on TV, so I'm watching them closely, and they're going to make the playoffs.
What about what's happening around the CFL this season, a chance to honor their past? How important is that to guys like yourself?
I think it's very important. I mean, anywhere you go, you look back and you see all the older guys that really started the league, and when TV first come in, you had some of the guys, Bernie Falvone, all these guys, Joe Cap, myself, Norm Fieldgate, Tom Brown. So we treasure these times.
Thanks, Willie, and thanks to this guy, Angelo Mosca is still the most hated man in Vancouver.
Yes, indeed. Boy, great to hear from Willie Fleming. And again, I've had some veteran guys say nobody was better than that man. And what a great interview, too.
Well, just showing that a couple of runs from Willie Fleming, you could see how great he was. 7.1 yard career average. That's pretty amazing.
And that's when you were running on almost every down, and so they knew you were coming.
Yeah. 60s were the Willie Fleming, Joe Cap years for the Lions.
2nd and 4, crosser, O'Neal Wilson. That's a great catch under duress. Kai Stewart right there. Wilson brings it down short of the first down. Had to get across the 45, and they mark him short of the 45-yard line, and Wally Bono has a 3rd down gamble to contemplate.
Well, O'Neal Wilson has made it close and a tough decision for Wally Bono, because this is a tough catch. He makes that catch with defender all over him in Kai Stewart.
Get a little longer to assess as the chains come out for a measurement. And that would be a full yard. Sean White has not kicked a field goal over 50 yards in the league, and he's not. Well, let's see what they're going to do.
Interesting decision here. Buck Pierce coming back out.
Oh, Rolly Lambala comes out, Ryan Grace Mullen, and they're going to go for it.
Yeah.
not a bad gamble, because if you don't make it, you don't give a bad field position. 3rd and a yard. Grace Mullen in motion. Lambala, first man through, first down. The big Calgary native who Wally Buono's daughter first spotted in high school and said, "Dad, there's a guy here that might be good enough to play in the CFL one day," has a first down run.
Slams it up in there for a big first down, and that, you know, that was a sigh of relief for Wally Buono on the sideline.
First and 10 at the Saskatchewan 43. There's Martel Mallet, the crease, and he gets cut down. Again, Kai Stewart on the tackle. And let's check in with Farhan Lalji.
Well, Chris, Paris Jackson is next to Jacques Chapdelaine, but they've taken his helmet away from him. You'll recall the big hit he took in the second quarter. He came out for a play, then went back in and had to ask G. Roy Simon what his route was on the next play, and then he proceeded to drop 3 passes. So he's got his bell rung. For now, they're going to hold him out. I'm also told Omar Morgan may come back into this play, or into this game, but not on this series.
Yeah, sometimes there's a reason there's drops or missed assignments. Here's Arsenault trying to fight for the first down stick, and he'll be stopped short.
But short to where the BC Lions should be in field goal range now. Because you're right, that last gamble by Wally Buono, Chris, he was in that in-between area where if you punt it and don't get the perfect kick, you basically haven't given up any field position because it comes back out, and it's a little long for a field goal attempt.
He was in that area that John Huffnagel was in last week late.
Yeah.
And DeAngelis missed the field goal that turned the game against the Roughriders. So Sean White, with Jarius Jackson holding, will attempt a 42-yarder. And the kid has put another one through. And the Lions lead is 8 here early in the third quarter.
It's Gladiator night, and a chance to salute the ultimate gladiators, our men and women in the armed forces. This is the HMCS Toronto departing St. John's, Newfoundland for Nunavut, where she will be deployed until August 28th as part of Operation Nanook, Canada's commitment to defending our sovereignty over the Arctic. We wish her and her crew a successful mission and a safe return home.
Four and a half minutes into this third quarter at BC Place Stadium. Stu Ford back pedals and then can't find the handle. And he's surrounded and brought down shy of the 15-yard line. So the Roughriders will start in a hole down by 8 in a building where they have posted at least one win in each of their last 4 years.
Wes Cates just 40 yards rushing in that first half, and often when Saskatchewan wants to try and settle things down offensively and start to put together a long and methodical drive, they'll go back to that zone read type play and go back to Wes Cates.
It gets loud for the defense here. Cates going nowhere. Jawan Armour in the hole waiting.
That's the intensity that Wally Buono was hoping he would get out of his middle linebacker in Jawan Armour. To not only make the play, that's one thing, but the celebration after the play and how fired up the entire defense becomes, because Jawan Armour hits that one, has Cates in the backfield, and then everybody's jumping up and down pretty excited.
It's a Lions defense that conceded 219 yards rushing last week, 220 the week before. Second and 12. Durant in trouble, and down, ball loose, Armour after it. Who's got it?
You know, pretty good protection initially, Chris, by the Riders' offensive line, because the Lions went with the blitz from Corey Banks.
Brent Johnson forced the fumble, but it looks like the Roughriders got back on it.
The initial blitz coming from here, that's Corey Banks, who slides out from, he was deep in the secondary, he takes off, Glad drops to the middle, here comes Juwan Armour, and it's hustle from the Brent Johnson from the front side of the play, who strips the ball.
And it looks like Bobby Harris saved it for the Roughriders. So Borum stands a couple of yards in his end zone and just gets it away. And Ryan Grice Mullen across midfield and then driven back. Borum got bumped, but no penalty on the play, and Borum tried to sell it. And looks like he thought there should have been a flag on that one.
A little excitement created by Juwan Armour. Middle linebacker spot. That first down run stop turns into almost a turnover for the Lions, but they do get the ball back, and that's exactly the intensity that Wally Buono was hoping for.
Lions with their second consecutive second-half drive starting at midfield. Pierce steps up, now kicks it outside, and has a first down. And Stevie Baggs all the way across the field to push him out. But Buck Pierce has his biggest run of the night.
And Buck Pierce, after what happened in Edmonton, is showing no signs that he wants to go ahead and hook slide when he starts to run with the football again. He takes off through the middle here, then he'll break to the outside. And how about the hustle of Stevie Baggs tonight? I mean, he is all over that field, and he's the guy from after rushing the passer, hustles all the way back to push Buck Pierce out of bounds, or he might have had another 20, 25 yards.
Pierce with a 22-yard romp. That's his longest of the season. So the Lions have a first down at the Saskatchewan 33-yard line.
Stevie Baggs so far tonight can sign his portrait.
Still operating without Paris Jackson. They'll swing it to Grace Mullen. Got a block. And Stevie Baggs there again to make the tackle close to a first down.
What I mean by that, Chris, is Stevie Baggs. I used to have a coach tell me that you're like a painter as a football player. When you make your painting, at the end of it, are you willing to sign the bottom and put your name to it? Right now, Stevie Baggs can sign his painting because he's leaving it out there. Tremendous hustle.
Second and 3. Mallet hits the hole hard and crashes into the secondary. Lance Fraser finally dumps him, but it's a Lion first down. 12-yard gain for Mallet.
Well, and the Lions are going to want to, if they run the ball more and more here tonight and as the season goes on, they're going to want to go to that right side because that's the veteran side with Jason Jimenez there, Sherko Haji Razuli inside, and then the center in Angus Reid right in the middle. And that's where Mallet, he takes it to the left, but he ends up cutting back into that side as they all slide down to the left.
First down, BC. Pierce flushed. Ray Williams in pursuit. Lance Fraser, and he'll drill him at the 12-yard line. 2 tough yards and a headache for Buck Pierce.
Tell you, you got to give Buck Pierce credit. He is taking hits that he really doesn't have to take.
One of the things Wally Buono liked about Pierce last week, and he is going to put a knee down. He was hurt in the second half last week, took a heavy jolt, and his forearm was a problem. And he told his coach he didn't want to come out of the game, and you wonder if that's where he took this hit.
Yeah, it looks like the left shoulder, and he tries to fend it off, but I'm wondering, could he have got out of bounds there? Maybe not. You see him turn the corner. He turned up into the hit rather than head straight out to the sideline and try and get out of bounds. it got his team 2 more yards, and his teammates have got to love that about it. They don't like to see the trainer out there, though.
That's the Dunnigan in him.
Yeah.
We have seen over the past. Martell Mallett also getting some attention. And Jarius Jackson has to warm up in a hurry on the sidelines.
People asking after 5 weeks in the season, you know, why are we seeing more turnovers? You know, and I truly believe that defensive football players are becoming stronger, faster. I mean, all across the board, but in the sort of the cycles of offense dominating and then defense is coming back, we're sort of in an upswing on the defensive side of the ball. And with the linebackers getting smaller and quicker, they're arriving fast. They can run faster now than they did in the old days, and those hits come harder.
Turnovers up 1.5 per game over last year, and that's before this week of action, and we've had 6 tonight already. So Jackson comes in and faces 2nd and 7 from the 11. Lyle Green releases. Jackson on a rope and off the fingertips of Geroy Simon.
Wow. Boy, that one had a little heat on it, and there wasn't a big window here for Geroy Simon in the slot back spot. He's just going to layer himself down through the middle, and you can see pretty good coverage there. I believe it's Eddie Davis. So there wasn't a lot of room for Jarius Jackson to get in there, and that's why he put so much heat on the ball. That's a tough one to bring in. Some are an error and a drop by the receiver, and some is just an incompletion. That was an incompletion.
19 yards out. Sean White puts it through. And now it's the Lions by 11 with 5:24 left, third quarter.
Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport.
Stu Ford drops back again, awaiting a kickoff with 5:24 left here in the third quarter. 6 points for the Lions in this second half after no points last week in the second half in Hamilton. Ron Walker on the return up to the 40-yard line. And no flags on that.
You know, you have to kind of agree, Chris, with Ken Miller's assessment at halftime when he talked to Farhan Lalji, and he talked about how, you know, he feels pretty good about his defense right now. He likes Darian Durant, and because they've been able to spar offensively, make some big plays, a couple to Rob Bagg. But he's losing right now the war on the special teams. A couple of big special teams plays by the Lions have been the difference here.
Hasn't called Chris Getzlaff's number yet tonight. In trouble. And now to the wide side, there's Jason Claremont. And with that catch, he goes over 6,000 yards, and just about all of them here as a BC Lion.
You know, and he gets a round of applause from Lions fans and a good reception. Jason Claremont, 3,000-yard seasons as a BC Lion. Farhan early in the show talked about how he's been used sparingly.
Got 14 there and a first down. Fake to Cates and across the middle behind Weston Dressler. As the pocket collapsed on Darian Durant.
I really think that Jason Claremont will become more and more involved. And one thing you know, that he can make that tough catch over the middle. I think people will look at Claremont's career whenever he decides to wrap it up, and they'll remember him for that. His toughness over the middle and his ability to take a hit and hang on to the football.
You wonder if it cost him a year or two. Not that he'd do anything different, but did anybody take more punishing hits than Claremont at the receiver position? He provides a block for Durant, and Darian Durant throws a completion. Here's Jerron Walker, and he's drilled by Tristan George at the 39-yard line.
Well, you're absolutely right, Chris. It's Jason Claremont that makes a big block here to give Darian Durant time to throw this football. And he said to me yesterday that he doesn't mind if this is his role in the Saskatchewan offense, to have to occasionally just come up into the formation here, slide out, and Brent Johnson is the guy. He kicks wide and high and allows Darian Durant underneath space and a chance to get the ball out of there. He said that's okay. He doesn't mind.
Big block last week on the Getzlaff touchdown to win it. Here's a ball over the middle, intercepted. Harvey Glatt has the pick. And he'll hit the deck at the 29-yard line. The guy who lost his starter's job in on certain defensive packages comes up with a big play.
Harvey Glatt's the middle linebacker in this play, and he drops a little bit this way and then ends up back in this area, and that fools Darian Durant, because when he opens up to his left, Durant doesn't count him over the middle, but he slides back underneath, and good for him, making a big play after being demoted.
You had a feeling he might make some noise tonight. Wally Bono said it was difficult to sit him down because he sees a little bit of himself in Harvey Glatt. More on that in a moment. But Buck Pierce back in at quarterback, and Martell Mallet back in at running back straight ahead. Wally Bono was a linebacker who played behind three great Montreal Alouette linebackers, and he said Marv Levy sat him down about 4 different times because of Carl Cronell and Chuck Zapek and Mike Widger. So he knows the feeling. And the feeling's pretty good right now for Harvey Glatt.
And he tried to emphasize to his team that the problems they're having are not me problems or you problems, they're us problems.
Second down, Pierce has a completion to Paris Jackson, who's also back in, short of the first down. Well, let's see where the spot is. They're going to be close. Paris thinks it's a first down, but
a lot of players toughing it out here right now, Chris. Paris Jackson, one of them. Omar Morgan is back out there on the corner. Buck Pierce was knocked out of the game. He's back in, and Martell Mallet. There's Omar Morgan, who talked him into allowing him back in the game.
And somebody on the sidelines mentioned to Farhan Lalji he did not remember the play, which usually is an indication you may not see him back. But it is a first down, so Paris Jackson's sight line was perfect.
You gotta love the toughness of these players that are taking these big hits, but do not want to let their teammates down by coming out. Tad Cornegay can now move back into linebacker, his regular position that he practiced all year.
Out of the backfield, Mallet. Tad Cornegay there, and Mallet brought down at the 45. Close to 6. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going.
Just one tonight. I believe it's Stevie Baggs has a sack. Buck Pierce weighs 215, so that adds that.
Alouettes was 7 tonight in a shutout win, the first time the Argos have been shut out in 17 years.
Remember, the Riders had 9 sacks the first times these two teams met.
2nd and 5. Paris Jackson again. What a sidestep by Jackson. A little Heisman straight arm, and he'll step out at the 43 and pump up the crowd on the near side.
Well, Paris Jackson is fighting off this injury and coming back, and I liked one thing he did. Now I'd just like to see him tuck it away, because fundamentally, watch how he changes the ball right now. He gets back inside. Now he knows the pressure's coming from his right, so he'll switch the ball to his left hand. That's the right thing to do, but see how loose he's got it out there? Now he's got to be careful with that, because it can get knocked out of your hand in a hurry, even if it's on the outside hand.
Run out by James Patrick after 23 yards, and a first down for the Lions at the Roughrider 43. Bump, and then over the middle of Jackson, another catch. Sean Lucas on the scene immediately. And this is one of the reasons why the Lions wanted to move 19 inside and give Jason Claremont the chance to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, you know, Jason Claremont, again, I believe will move up the depth chart a little bit and be more involved. Paris Jackson certainly real involved tonight, and he's got some chemistry going with Buck Pierce right now.
2nd and 3. Mallett again. And Martell Mallett close to another Lion first down. He's had a good night.
Yeah, he has. In fact, I would consider Martell Mallett as one of the candidates for Gladiator as we start to take a close look at who could be possibles. Certainly Martell Mallett has got some real tough yards. He's got a touchdown.
Paris Jackson's
absolutely
played a physical game.
And Stevie Baggs, Saskatchewan.
Should be the final play of the 3rd quarter. And Pierce throws another strike. Rufus Skillern can't get away from Sean Lucas, and Ray Williams in there as well as the 3rd quarter ends. And the Lions, in desperate need of a win, have an 11-point advantage. 3rd quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, the ones that jump out for me are the time of possession. The Lions almost doubled that of Saskatchewan, but some big plays for the Riders. And Ken Miller, Chris, told us yesterday that of the 12 wins last year for the Riders, 11 of them were from behind in the 4th quarter when the team was either behind or tied. So this is by far not over here tonight.
What kind of drama do they have in mind here in the 4th quarter tonight? But that defense has been on the field a long time.
They have, but if they can sustain some drives, and they've already shown some big plays here. Rob Bagg has a couple of big plays. You mentioned earlier in the game that they lead the league in plays over 30 yards, so they have the big strike ability, the big play ability. Now we'll see if they can sustain some time of possession, some ball control, and keep their defense off the field. Get them off for starters.
2nd and 6. Pierce sets up across the middle, and the catch is made. Emmanuel Arsenault with the grab, but let's see where they mark it. Short of the first down, and the field goal unit will come on. So this to make it a 2-touchdown lead for the youngster Sean White. One of those 5 positives you got yesterday from Wally Buono.
I got Martell Mallett, the athletic ability overall of his team, Sean White, and that his team is quite prepared going in. Those are the things that he thought were positives.
White stays high on that list as he kicks another. And it is a 14-point advantage for the BC Lions here in the opening minute of the 4th quarter. Well, Sunday night, TSN 2 brings you exclusive coverage of World Extreme Cage Fighting as Miguel Torres takes on Brian Bowles for the World Bantamweight Championship. Live coverage begins 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, only on TSN 2.
Last week in Calgary, Ken Miller told the media the day before the game that Stephen Giles would see some playing time. He did in the 2nd quarter. Yesterday, he didn't want to discuss it because he hadn't talked about it to his quarterbacks yet. But it looks like the plan has changed slightly. Stephen Giles warmed up a little bit on the sideline in between quarters there. He has his helmet on. So we'll see if he is going to come out in this 4th quarter. They go back to Darian Durant.
The offensive backfield in the last few games for Saskatchewan has huddled on change of possessions on the sidelines around the coach. And the offense is kind of gathering around Giles, and there you see Durant on the bench.
Looks like he may make the change now and see if Stephen Giles can rally the troops and come back. He was instrumental last week in that long 5-minute drive we talked about.
Here's Walker. And Jerron Walker up to the 33-yard line, and it indeed is Stephen Giles here in the 4th quarter for Saskatchewan.
Well, and I talked to Stephen Giles in warm-up, and he felt that experience was a real positive one for both quarterbacks last week, and that the team now may even have a little more confidence in their offense, in that they know that they can be successful using both quarterbacks, and he's just not a mop-up guy. So we'll see if Stephen Giles can light a fire under this offense and keep him on the field for a while.
They go 6 receivers. And Giles one hops to the intended target, Johnny Quinn.
Now looks like he's got to loosen up a bit. Relax and get into that groove a little bit. And Darian Durant will now help out with signals from the bench and be an extra set of eyes.
So Giles looks at 2nd and 10. Here comes the rush, and Giles escapes, and will have a first down. Justin George takes him down, and they'll mark him at the Saskatchewan 54. Big run for Stephen Giles. 21 yards.
Another key block here made by Wes Cates, number 20, who just gets a piece of the oncoming Lion to the outside. He's going to slide over, and I believe it's Corey Banks, just gets a shoulder pad on him there, and that allows Giles a little bit of a crease to get outside and get the first down.
His longest run of the year. Play action fake. Giles in trouble, and he's wrapped up and thrown down. Brent Johnson.
Athletic play by Brent Johnson, because he was out in space on an island against a quarterback who can run the ball pretty well, but Brent Johnson plays it solid outside here. He ends up being isolated because it's one-on-one. Giles in space against the big defensive lineman. He gets his hands up, tries to block his throwing lane, and then is able to drag him down.
3rd of the year, 73rd of his distinguished career, 2nd and 11. And they screen to Cates, who gets a block. But Ryan Phillips was there to prevent a first down.
Brent Johnson came off the edge there. He felt that he was held on that play and looked straight to the official. No flag came out. It was the backside of the play. But Brent Johnson right here comes off the ball, and he thought there should have been a penalty flag right there on Joel Bell. So he pulls his shoulder pads down a little bit. He throws his hands up in disgust, but no penalty flag is out.
So Borum in to punt, and Bryce Mullen is back with Tristan George. And here's Bryce Mullen from his 9. And he is brought down after a short return at the 16-yard line.
Wendy's CFL on TSN Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939.
2-touchdown lead for the Lions. 11.5 minutes remaining here in the 4th quarter as BC tries to snap a 2-game losing streak. 2 straight losses at home as well. Martel Mallet will try and grind some things out here.
Well, now offensively, Jock Chapdelaine wants to see if he can put together a long drive, use Martel Mallet, try and grind it out, mix it up a little bit, high percentage passes, and try and eat up as much of the clock as he possibly can before having to give the ball back to the Saskatchewan offense.
Mallet looking for his first 100-yard CFL game. 2nd down, Pierce. And with the heat on, just throws that into the turf. And is that going to be grounding? Late flag just tossed, as I'm not sure that ball made it back to the line of scrimmage.
No, it didn't, but Martel Mallet was in the vicinity.
There's no infraction on the play. There was a receiver in the area.
Yeah.
3rd down.
Marcus Adams was bearing down on Pierce, so he just got rid of it.
I think it was his throwing lane. Martel Mallett's in the backfield beside him. He's going to end up sneaking out like it's a screen, but you're right. There are riders in the throwing lane, and it didn't cross the line of scrimmage, but as long as the receiver is close to the ball, it's not intentional grounding.
So now Dressler drops deep, and the Roughriders need the kind of spark on a return that he provided last week on the missed field goal. High angling punt. Dressler 49-yard line. And Jerome Dennis downfield quickly. There's Jason Araki. Sunday TSN gets you ready for the upcoming NFL season with a preseason matchup between Terrell Owens and the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. Live coverage begins 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific.
Trent Edwards, the Terrell Owens circus begins for you.
Welcome to your reality show. Bart Andrus' old team, the Titans, and Stephen Giles at the controls here in the fourth quarter for the Roughriders, trying to generate a comeback, and Wes Cates is not going anywhere.
You know, the BC defense have been better tonight against the run. Last week, Wes Cates and this offense had 133 yards rushing against Calgary, a 7-yard average. Tonight, Wes Cates just 59 before this run here. Now, I'm not saying Juwan Armour has made all the tackles and all the plays, but to put him in the lineup, and maybe he's the straw that's stirring the drink a little bit.
150 yards per game rushing against the Lions coming in. 2nd and 10. Javi Glad in and pass situations, and Giles scrambling has another first down. Preston George upends him, but Stephen Giles for the second time here in the fourth quarter takes off to move the chains.
Well, patience by Stephen Giles to wait in there because the coverage was pretty good down the field. He really didn't have anybody open. Crossing routes that were chipped off by the linebackers, and Stephen Giles was patient. And because he was patient, he waited until everything cleared out, and then he got into space one-on-one and picked it up with his legs.
12-yard run by Giles. Still time left for the Riders. On a roll, pressure, and Giles is dropped. Initial pressure from Corey Banks, and Ricky Foley finishes him off.
And Corey Banks makes the play. Ricky Foley will get the stat, but Corey Banks makes the play from the front side, because when the quarterback is on the roll like that, like Giles is, you got to have a guy out there that is going to be able to cut him off. And you stop it there. There's Banks, number 24. He cuts him off and allows Foley to clean him up.
4th sack of the year for Foley, trying to fill the large shoes of Cameron Wake. 2nd and a mile, and Dressler still in play and steps out around midfield. So got back to the line of scrimmage and maybe a yard or two, but Lions turned the heat up on Stephen Giles in that last series.
Yeah, you can tell there's a sense of urgency in a 1-14. 1-14 that is trying to stop the bleeding of the BC Lions, because the fourth quarter with just under 8 minutes to go, that pass rush is now turned up a notch. Brent Johnson barely missed another sack.
Orm trying to pin the Lions. And that ball hopping down to the 15. And Grace Mullen is pushed out quickly. Tonight's game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
A couple big plays by Rob Bagg, who is starting to come into his own in that wide receiver position. 6 turnovers again. The first time these two teams met in week 1, there were 15 of them. Pierce has played better.
And now the Roughriders need to stop on defense. Martel Mallet left side to the 20. And 3 for Mallet.
And he's going to need some ice bags. He's got up from the pile a few times just like that.
Had the shoulder checked out earlier in the game. Now appears to be on the limp a bit.
Got his wrist taped up a little bit more right there on his right arm. So it's been banged around a little tonight.
2nd and 7. And Pierce takes off. And Buck Pierce to the 26-yard line. He'll be close to a first down.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders came into this game ranked 7th against the run, giving up 135 per game. Martel Mallet has 85 tonight on 15 carries. Buck Pierce has run a couple of times on his own.
And Pierce comes up short here. And not sure Wally Buono takes any chances right now, does he?
Well, that's
Here comes
why
Jarius Jackson, so apparently he does.
You know, I would say it this way, Chris. To me, anytime you're inside of a yard, you have got to have confidence in your O-line. Now, when you're inside your own 30, wow, the intensity of that decision turns up a notch.
Yep. The conventional play with a 2-touchdown lead, I think, is to kick it, but Jarius Jackson in, and not much of a push. Not much of a push. And is this the opportunity that the Saskatchewan Roughriders needed?
I don't know if he got there.
There was not much of a surge at all.
And on 3rd down, you can challenge. But the ruling is more important than the challenge in plays like this, because the ruling then has to be overturned.
Now, does he gamble on 3rd down here to send? He doesn't make it. Does not make it. You wonder if the failures on the goal line gave him the impetus to say, come on, guys, let's see if we can get a yard.
I thought it was the Riders' Joe Sykes, Chris, that plugged up that hole.
And suddenly, the Riders have life. 8th turnover of the night.
Right in here, Joe Sykes, he just submarines. And you can see that Jarius Jackson really does not move an inch, let alone half a yard.
That gamble will be talked about if Stephen Giles can make something happen. Wes Cates can't hang on. Ryan Phillips has been busy tonight. There defensively for the Lions.
Well, the Wally Buono decision has really put pressure on that BC defense to try and hold Saskatchewan here. But you're right, Chris, that short yardage team will be much talked about this week here in Vancouver in talk radio and the newspaper.
13th man amps it up. Giles steps up. Stephen Giles, first down. And they have lost that first down as he bubbled back. Enough for the first down at the 16-yard line. A little dangerous detour at the end of the run.
I mentioned it last week in Calgary when I talked to Stephen Giles about how he describes himself as a quarterback. He said, I'm a pocket passer that can scramble. Boy, can he ever scramble. He's done this a couple of times now, and he does bubble, but he gets the first down.
Got 11. First down, Saskatchewan at the 16. Giles stands in and is in trouble, and down he goes. Back at the 20. Brent Johnson was holding on and has his 2nd sack of the night.
Brent Johnson was one name that has come up this week here in BC about a guy who needs to even step his game up a little bit. After the Hamilton game, he is right down here at that familiar rush end spot, but it's just tenacious effort from Brent Johnson. He's moved to go to the outside, spins back in, and then once he gets a hold of Stephen Giles, he is not letting go. Looks like Brent Johnson's back.
Doubled his sack total on the year. 3 on the night for the Lions, matching their week 1 production. Here comes the blitz. Corey Banks. Giles stands up and now is dropped. Corey Banks off the edge, and Anton McKenzie, the former Saskatchewan Roughrider, finishes it off.
Anton McKenzie comes on the blitz, and this is what pressure can do for you. Mike Benavides, the defensive coordinator, decides to go with pressure because Wes Cates is going to end up wide open in the end zone. But Stephen Giles does not have the time to get him the football. Here comes Anton McKenzie. He gets some pressure. Corey Banks off the edge gets some pressure. And Wes Cates is waving frantically in the end zone because he is open.
The free agent signing the former Roughrider, handing Saskatchewan back-to-back sacks, and they're going for it. 3rd and 20. Giles under duress, and down he goes. There is a marker. There is a marker downfield.
Now this is probably going to be illegal contact on a receiver. I believe it was Rod Bagg over the middle, and Tristan George just flattened him. The illegal contact is not pass interference. There's a difference.
Illegal contact on a receiver, BC number 43. It's a 10-yard penalty. We'll repeat 3rd down.
So it'll be 3rd and 10. But first, the 3-minute warning. Lions lead by 14.
Tristan George on Rob Bagg right there. Here's the penalty. It is illegal contact as Tristan George throws Bagg to the ground. He's their big play receiver, and he wanted to make sure he wasn't open, but he draws a penalty and gives the Riders one more chance here.
A last gasp for the Riders. It's 3rd and just over 10. Penalty marker down. Giles to the end zone, incomplete.
It's going to be holding. And if it's incomplete, the Lions can decline the penalty and take the football.
It's going to be a turnover on downs.
Holding. Saskatchewan number 57. That penalty is declined. 1st down, BC.
Mark Parenteau called for the hold, and with 2:25 left, the Lions offense comes onto the field.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Jeremy O'Day or Mark Parenteau, but it was one of the two inside, and they were working on Aaron Hunt right there, number 90, as he comes through and gets penetration. You see 54 and 57. Well, it was Parenteau, and down he goes. There's the flag. So even if this was complete, it was coming back.
So the missed 3rd down gamble doesn't come back to haunt the Lions. Martell Mallet, Keith Shulligan brings him down immediately.
I just want to quickly, while we can and have a second, say a special hello to official that is down, who looks like his career may be over, and Ian Bain, who we all say hello to. He's recovering at home, and the officials here, Murray Clark and the rest of the crew, this is his crew. And
timer, can you please adjust the clock to 2:20? 2:20.
And this crew has done a real good job here tonight, and they miss you in, and they wish you the best in your speedy recovery. And what a great career you've had, if in fact it is over.
Resetting the clock here. 2:20 to go. Stevie Beggs, who's been a tenacious defender for the Riders tonight, trying to come up with one more big play. Pierce using the clock, rolling, and gets down underneath the hit from Ray Williams. So the punt team will come on for BC, and Saskatchewan's going to get the ball back now, but with less than 2 minutes to play.
For Stephen Giles here now, play action basically disappears because you know the defense is not going to look at play action. So he can't really use that. And Ken Miller can roll him. We've seen how athletic he can be. and how he can scramble and pick up yards on the run. There is still time, though, for Saskatchewan. They should get good field position here.
Dressler waits at the Rough Rider 49-yard line. Here comes the rush, and White just gets it away, and short kick. Dressler on the run at the Lion 50. Dropped at the 47-yard line. So the Rough Riders, good field position. Time for tonight's TSN Turning Point.
Well, it was one of those unique plays to Canadian football. On a punt return for Saskatchewan, the ball is kicked by the BC Lions' James Yurachuk, which is a legal play called dribbling the football. O'Neal Wilson scoops it up, and a touchdown on the teams for the BC Lions. Put them in the lead.
When it looked like Saskatchewan would have the halftime and lead and maybe even add to it, that swung the momentum. Giles, Crosser, and Dressler can't bring down the high pass. With Joanne Arbor in the neighborhood, the TSN Turning Point brought to you by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. It's way delicious. It's Wendy's. Well, we mentioned it off the top of the night. Debatably must win here in BC. And here in week 6, it looks like Wally Bono's team is going to move to 2-4 and tighten up the West even more.
Does it ever?
2nd and 10. And Giles has Dressler. James Toney the tackle, but it's a first down at the 32 with 80 seconds on the clock.
And again, there is still plenty of time here. But you're right, if the Lions hang on for another minute 20, go to 2 wins. Calgary Stampeders play tomorrow against Winnipeg. They're at 2 wins. It tightens things up.
And that play stop was their early movement. Yes, there was on that Saskatchewan line.
The improvement for the BC Lions have been on their teams, although early on it didn't look like that was going to happen. A couple of penalties.
Illegal procedure. Saskatchewan number 63. 5-yard penalty. It remains first down.
Bobby Harris called the left tackle. Another reason it's a big game. I mean, these season series we'll be talking about later in the year. Ken Miller comes in tonight and wins. They'd be up 2-0 in the season series, which is 4 games in this case. And it looks like Wally Bono's team's going to get back to even terms in that department against the Rough Riders, barring a miraculous finish. And Giles looks for Claremont, who can't hang on and pays the price.
I can't believe how deep Anton McKenzie got in his drop to slide across and make that hit on Jason Claremont. That's a linebacker, folks, playing deep in the secondary and puts his shoulder right in the middle between the 8 and the 2 of Claremont.
And as he always seems to do, 82 gets up, but you wonder how.
Looked like that one may have knocked the wind out of him too. He tries to catch his breath and he's grabbing the ribs. Big hit. Like, you don't expect a linebacker to be that deep. Former Saskatchewan Roughrider Anton McKenzie playing in that deep middle where you usually see safeties. Big hit.
Yeah, that's not exactly welcome home. 2nd and long. Giles gunning it deep. Johnny Quinn behind coverage. Brings it down at the 1. With 58 seconds left. We might get a photo finish yet.
You might. And that's what I mean. There's lots of time on the clock. All it takes is a big play. And Johnny Quinn's going to run corner route here on Ryan Phillips. Gets in behind him. And I love what he does at the end of the play. Catches the ball at its highest point, up above the head of Ryan Phillips. A quick score here gives the Riders a chance for an onside kick and the possibility of getting the ball back.
And he did slide in, was down at the 1, slid across after being down by contact. So here we go. First and goal from the 1. Riders need a score, and they want to do it quickly. Zarka! And a flag down on the play. They say touchdown, and let's sort out the flag. Sarka does break the plane. The Vancouver area product with his second touchdown if the marker is going against BC.
Well, the fact that it's ruled a touchdown, Chris, is important.
BC. That penalty's declined. The result of the play is a touchdown.
That's important that he kept fighting there even though the flag was out, because it saves valuable time on the clock for Saskatchewan. Now they don't have to run another play on the 1-yard line. So Zarka, even though the BC Lions were offside and there was going to be another chance for Saskatchewan down here, he keeps fighting. He is still live there and breaks the plane. That should save some valuable time.
So the Canuck truck does get in. 44 seconds on the clock. And Chris Zarka back in the short yardage scheme for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Back in 2003, he had 11 rushing touchdowns and seemed to be a forgotten man. Juwan Armour makes his way to the sidelines.
Now both teams, after this extra point, get ready for an onside kick. The Lions to receive one, the Riders to try and go get it.
Baron Miles with the block. Baron Miles with a record-setting kick block, his 13th career, and he's the all-time CFL leader, and what a time to do it. It's still an 8-point game as Baron Miles might have just nailed it down.
CFL history in the making for Baron Miles right here as he times it up. Little bit of problems with the snap for Rob Bagg, who juggles it a little bit there. But that block, CFL history.
Looks like Ronaldo Nehemiah. The hurdle, and Kanji had no chance.
Now, it doesn't change things for the Riders in that they have to try and get this onside kick anyway. But now if they can find a way to, 1, get the ball back, 2, get back in the end zone, now they have to go for that third big play. Yeah, so a huge one for Baron Miles.
So Baron Miles passes Gerald Vaughn on the CFL all-time block kick list. That's the 9th kick block of the year in the Canadian Football League.
Now he counts up to make sure there's enough players on the field and not too many. The Lions will load up this area down here, thinking that Conchi's going to try and go that way. Borum's in so they could go either way on the onside.
We might see it all before this night's done. Jump ball, and it's too long, and that's an illegal kick out of bounds.
And I don't think it traveled 10 yards either.
And to get to the 45, and it does get marked out at the 43, so.
Legal kickoff out of bounds, Saskatchewan number 10. That penalty is declined. First down, BC.
The Lions can decline the penalty and take the ball. It's a very, very difficult kick to execute. You have to be almost perfect with it. Luka Kanji tries to get it. You got to be about 12 yards deep and have that ball high and drop right near the sideline, and that one a little too far width-wise and not quite long enough.
So win number 229 for Wally Buono. In sight, 44 seconds away. Barring a mistake. Pierce spins off Baggs. That's a dangerous call. And he's dropped after a couple of yards. Time for tonight's Friday Night Gladiator.
Well, Stevie Baggs, who just made that tackle, was a nominee. But from start to finish, Martel Mallet has taken some big hits, been very productive running the ball with 87 yards, has made some big catches out of the backfield, 22 yards, but 109 total from the line of scrimmage and a touchdown. And he's had to do it the hard way a lot on lots of occasions. So Martel Mallet, congratulations, you're our gladiator tonight.
Friday Night Gladiator brought to you by Movado. The Movado 800 Series is all about the art of performance, where serious sports function meets power design. And that's the watch that Martel Mallet receives as tonight's Gladiator. And while we were talking about the Gladiator, a little fracas on the field.
Saskatchewan number 90. Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Saskatchewan number 90. 30 yards, first down.
Apparently Stevie Baggs a little upset. He was not the Gladiator. He and Shirko Hachi Razuli got in each other's grills.
Well, he has left it out there. Stevie Baggs played hard. I know there's some frustration. There's a penalty. Harris Jackson got involved.
So 30 yards worth marched off against the Roughriders.
That should do it for the Lions, who will now be able to kill the remaining 37 seconds.
I mentioned season series. You think that means the Lions don't take a knee? They try and put more points on the board?
That would surprise me. That would surprise me, Chris, only in how the season has gone so far for BC, and that they're one score and a 2-point convert away from a tie.
Lions in Toronto next week. Saskatchewan gets Hamilton. And Martel Mallet will score. Touchdown, BC. And the Lions will be 2-4, thanks in large part to their Gladiator performance of Martel Mallet.
Well, a safe running play. I was a little surprised actually to see Buck Pierce in the shotgun, because you know things can go wrong in that position as well when you have to snap the ball through the air. But Mallet takes advantage of now a frustrated Saskatchewan defense. They've been out there a long time, and that seals the deal for a team that, to say had a sense of urgency, Chris, I think is a big understatement. A lot of people talking about must win, as you mentioned.
Told his team, I believe in you. Do you believe in yourselves? There may be a little bit more belief on that Lions sideline now.
Boy, and that makes tomorrow's game between the Stamps and Bombers interesting. Edmonton Eskimos playing Hamilton. 3 wins for Edmonton, Saskatchewan. They'll go to 3-3. The Lions get back in the fight at 2-4.
So the Eskimos will have a chance to take sole possession of first in the West, but they'll have their hands full with Hamilton. Ken Miller's team with its first road loss at 3-3. Every Western Division matchup, I think, is going to feel like this one.
Well, and it's always been pretty exciting when these two teams meet in this building as well. Saskatchewan has had success here over the last few games that they've come to BC Place. And, you know, again, this one goes down to the wire. I mean, a couple of plays here and there. Stephen Giles gets one more crack at it, who knows, but full credit to the Lions. I think one of the phases of the game that they won here tonight was special teams. I think they beat the Riders on special teams tonight.
High short kickoff. And Zarka fields it and gets buried right away. Well, a reminder, CFL on TSN continues tomorrow with that doubleheader of action. Game 1, the Eskimos and the Tiger Cats, and either win Game 2. It's the Blue Bombers and that great Winnipeg defense against the Stampeders at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Final half minute here in Vancouver. Giles to Jerron Walker, who stops the clock after a short gain in front of Dante Marsh.
And I wonder in Saskatchewan how many will start to talk about when Ken Miller decided to change the quarterbacks. I think his plan overall is a good one. And that being that He has 2 young quarterbacks that he wants to develop. And yes, you want to win every game, no question. But to platoon quarterbacks has had success in CFL history on a lot of different teams.
Second down, Giles steps up. And there's Chris Getzlaff with his first catch of the night. Here with 17 seconds left, the Canadian Player of the Week last week.
Jason Claremont, Chris, wanted to make sure that we pointed out Chris Getzlaff a couple of times. We did show that play again. And yeah, what a great week he had. He said he felt that although he loved Scott Schultz, that it was starting to get buried in the headlines a little bit how good Chris Getzlaff played last week in Calgary. And he said, make sure you mention him because he's a good kid.
Giles for Claremont, who catches it over the middle. He's tripped up at the 35 on the final play of the game. Time runs out on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Ken Miller's team is now even at 3-3, and Wally Buono's BC Lions have a much-needed win. Career win 229 for the venerable coach of the BC Lions as they move to 2-4. Again, the final 35-20. So long from Vancouver Sports Center is next.